Hey D&D fam. I'm Quick.
And I'm Lee, and you're listening to
Divas and Ducats. So what is a diva? I think divas get a bad rep. But to me, diva is all about the attitude.
As for Ducat, it's your finances, your assets, Skrilla, guap, your coin. We're talking all things with the potential to affect your pockets.
And while we're attorneys by trade, we are divas by choice. Divas and Ducats is for edutainment purposes.
Y'all, we are not Series 511 or 703 professionals. This does not create a financial advisor or attorney-client relationship. The views expressed here are solely our opinions and the opinions of our guests.
It's just our opinions, y'all. Okay, divas, let's talk Ducats.
Hey D&D fam, welcome back.
Welcome back.
We hope you are doing well. If you are watching, make sure you click subscribe below. Welcome YouTube watchers. And what are we going to get into today? What's on our docket?
This is going to be an amazing and fun conversation.
I'm excited.
The commentary is about to tickle me. But we are going to be talking about what's in a provider. And there are many dynamics to that. You could be talking about provision for children. But we are specifically going to be talking about relationships.
Yes, because all over the interwebs you hear protect and provide. He needs to protect and provide. So we're going to break that down. Even amongst men, you hear that a lot, right? My job is to protect and provide.
Right.
Air quotes. So we wanted to kind of get into it, right? Like really talk about what does that mean? What does that mean to people besides us? You know, we did conduct a small poll.
Look at us being responsible.
Okay. So, but first, before we get into that, we wanted to highlight our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Wood & Bowers. They do a number of services within the legal field, wills, estate plans, personal injury, but we wanted to highlight discrimination. So civil rights are still a thing. It's not just in the 50s. And people are unfortunately, subject to unlawful searches and seizures, may have been discriminated in their workplace or feel like they're retaliated against. So if you feel like there's something going on that, is unfairly burdening you, you feel like you might have been discriminated against, give them a call. Wood & Bowers, you can reach them at 704-665-5838. Again, that's 704-665-5838. You can also visit their website and email them. They are wbvlaw.com. That is W as in wooden, B as in boy, V as in Victor, law.com.
And that information is going to be in the show notes of this episode. And also, if you head to our website and sign up and get on our subscribers list, whenever the episodes come out, you do get an email what the episode is about. And it does have a hyperlink for all this information so you don't have to try to recall it.
Yes. There you go.
And for those that are listening and would be interested in having their businesses on here, you're interested in being a sponsor, you can also
bounce back.
Okay. You can also reach out to divaadvice.com and get more information about it that way.
All right. So let's get into it.
So, like we said, that there are many different ways to be a provider. There's a parental relationship. Yeah. Obviously, as we're getting older, the caregiver relationship or provision. But with the Kevin Samuels thing, it's just become such a big topic, right? It is just like this high value man and this high value woman, and it makes me want to choke. But the underlying premise of it is being able to be a provider. Like, I guess that's kind of, when the people think about how value, they attribute it to money.
That they're higher earners.
Right.
They bring more to the financial table. That's usually the big aspect of what they consider high value.
Right.
And then I think it's unfortunate, but some people put in there like some people would consider baggage, like if they have kids, how many kids, like they start kind of going down the list from there. And so I think, first of all, social media is a gift and a curse, right? So I think the connections, the access, the various things that you are able to see now on social media is great when it's used for good. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of times you see these endless debates, especially between Black men and Black women, about almost like it feels like a power dynamic, right? And so it's just this thing of like, I told you the one, I'm sure I've said it before, the one I hate all the time, first of all because it's unrealistic, but also just because it's like there's more than one way to skin a cat. It's just that constant example of, this is your mortgage or rent and these are your bills, who should pay what. And you see the back and forth between men and women, and the man should do this, the woman should do that. And I think honestly, the back and forth and a lot of the pitting us against each other is a waste of time, for one, but also it doesn't really help us be better for ourselves and as partners or potential partners in relationships. So yeah, just like the $100,000 episode, we kind of wanted to break down some of this and where it comes from, and if some of it is realistic nowadays, right? So, okay, so we talked about the different provider roles or the different situations where you might provide. And if you look it up, for those of you who are more nerdy, provide literally means to exchange goods or services. You are giving something. You are providing something. It doesn't necessarily mean money, according to the dictionary, but I think it's become associated with money because of, like, historically, right? So up until maybe the last 50, 60 years, there was a time where women did not work. And so the structure was men went out to work. That was their sole job, really, to get a paycheck. And the woman managed the home. So if there were children, she reared the children. She prepared the meals. She made sure the home was clean and comfortable. And that was her contribution, because she wasn't able to. I mean, I'm sure there's laws on the book even. At a certain point, she wasn't allowed to work, right? I think some of that shifted as you saw, certain world wars. Let me slow down. There was a need for women to get into the workplace, and that vacillated depending on like ethnicity, right? I think you saw more maybe black women working like domestically or things like that, even when maybe like white women may not have been working yet. So I mean, it really just depended on background there, but even so, for the most part, men were the breadwinners, for lack of better words. That was their primary contribution to the family, right? So
and this is an aside, but when you were just talking about, like, back in the day, women kind of mainly they were home, right? They were taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. This is so random, but I have recently read an article because Morris and his wife recently celebrated, I think, 27 years. Okay. And he was like, he met her in a club. And their friend, right? He was with one of his homeboys or whatever, and they were like pointing out girls, and he was telling them, get this girl, get that. He was like, well, what about the girl? He was like, oh no, leave her alone. She ain't passing it out, right? So leave her alone. Okay. So he was intrigued, but he said what made him want to marry her was because he saw how she was with kids, and he knew that, he was like, more than her beauty, he knew that she would be a good mom. Okay. So I thought that's interesting. Like, that's way back then, but it's still, the role, but even now it's a factor in what it's still value in it. So anyways, that was random.
Okay, but it was cute. All right, I get it. Because I think even now, as you said, to that point, women, a lot of us look at not necessarily earning potential per se, but we do look at, does this man have a plan? Does he have some kind of vision, or does he have some kind of gumption about himself? Is he doing something with himself? I think that, but I think that comes from back in the day too. Like, is he able to not only sustain himself, but then bring me on, and we're still in a good place? So I think some of those things die hard. I'm not saying that you need to get with someone with no vision, but I just think that when you think about where it comes from, a lot of those things do come from traditional places, even though we're not arguably in a traditional world anymore, right? So,
and I think also in talking about what's in a provider, right? There's definitely age is important. In this conversation, because what you are looking for potentially in your 20s is not going to be what you're looking for in your 30s or your 40s. Correct. Because we often hear about women specifically, I hear men say, are you going to hold me down and, get somebody with potential and all these things. And it's like, it's cute when you're 18, 19 years old and you don't have anything and you're going to grow and sure, let me hold you down. We figure out these dreams.
This dollar million.
Yeah,
right.
That's fine. Like you're in a place of building, but when you're into your 40s, the expectation should be that you are both coming to the table with some kind of foundation and establishment that you done did in the last 20 years of work, hopefully, and. You know, obviously, there's blended families and kids and all of those things, divorces, which do have an impact on people's finances for sure. But there is an expectation that y'all are both coming somewhere with the foundational building. You're not starting from ground zero like you might be coming straight out of high school.
Right.
So that provision aspect of it is just going to look different. So I do think people's conversations and expectations have to be different based upon age, right? Like you can't, and I don't necessarily know that it is sometimes.
Yeah, I think, and again, social media, we don't know how old these people are, but I think you see the same arguments whether a person is 20 or 50. And I definitely agree. I think the hold you down thing, quick caveat. I take issue with the hold down thing just because I feel like, as a black woman, I'm just speaking from my perspective, I feel that we are the only group that is expected to martyr ourselves to lift somebody else up.
Yep.
I feel like if Susie Q expects Bill to have a job and to, you know, be able to hold his own financially, she's well within her right. Nobody bats an eye. If Susie Q expects certain things of him and for him to have some kind of plan. I feel like...
If Ming Lee.
Okay, I feel like if that's what she wants, nobody questions it. But I feel like many times when a black woman, and I'm not sure if it's the way we say it or what we're saying, I'm not really sure which is which. But either way, I feel like when you hear a black woman basically demanding that you're financially stable, and I'm not saying that necessarily means you're a millionaire, you're 7 figures, 6 figures, because we've already established that 6 figures is not the norm.
Right.
But when she demands financial stability and she demands to not have struggle love, then it's an issue. Then she's a gold digger. So I really wrestle with that hold down thing. One, because of that, and two, because it usually doesn't go both ways. Right. If we're really honest about the context that that's used in. So, you know.
Right.
Do with that what you will. Now, as far as, you know, the numbers of it, like, do we have any information about, like we talked about what life costs.
Yeah,
right?
we talked about what life costs. So I did do, like, research on, like, what the average African American male and female earns. It was harder to find it like a versus kind of thing, like what one makes over the other, and they kind of always grouped them in together
as a unit.
And it was around, honestly, around $45,000-$50,000.
Okay,
versus our, again, societal things of thinking people make 6 figures. When, again, we have had a whole episode on that. You can go back and look on it.
Okay.
And it's that's in like the 5th percentile, less than 10, less than 10th percentile of people that are making 6 figures. So when we're talking about provision, is that what the expectation is? Or is it something else? Is it numerical for a woman and versus a man? And like we said, we definitely went, and did our research and talked to some men.
Yeah.
And, to see what their aspect of what is provision. But I do think, and they were right, that a lot of women categorize provision strictly on money now. Right. And then they're kind of wondering, even though that's their mindset, that their mindset is provision is strictly on money, then why are they being treated wrong, right? Because I personally know quite a few guys that make a lot of money and treat their people like the bottom of their shoe,
right?
Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, girl, I'm glad you guys.
And even your, what's your boy Kevin?
Yeah,
he said, I have not watched, but maybe 2 of them. But he said something that stood out to me. The one where you got mad with he called the lady average. So I think he calls a lot of people average. If it makes you feel better. But what he said to her, because she was a person who wanted somebody who earned 6 figures and all of that, and so he was saying, when you want a man that's in a certain economic bracket, things start getting very specific. They start getting very picky. They may have a type. they may, like you said, demand certain things, or not demand certain things, but they may expect you to put up with certain things because they are bringing the money to the table, and they look at the money as the power. And so that trade-off of, would you rather? And not to say that there aren't people out there that make really good money and treat their partners well,
right.
but it's like, what are we really asking for, and what does that really look like? And is it realistic, right? Because I know, we talked about even too in the, what was it? The dating potential episode. How as women, compared to the men that we talk to, women have these super specific lists about, it's almost like, build a husband.
Right.
Like, we have this list of, he has to be this, and he has to be that, and he has to be, and it's like, girl, like, you want Shakespeare, Tupac, and Steve Jobs in the same person, and that's not.
That sounds good.
It does, but that's because it doesn't exist. Like, everybody wanted a sophisticated thug. It does not happen. There was one Tupac, and he chose the thug over the sophistication. Look what happened. So I'm just. I
don't know. His lyrics were very Shakespearean.
They were, but his lifestyle was very thuggish, ruggish bones. So, I think that let's really break down, and we asked men, because we didn't want to, as a woman, we didn't want to seem biased. We don't want to, whatever.
Yes.
So let's first, how do we define, let's answer the questions ourselves. So we asked men, and they ran the gamut between ages of 29 and 63. So we got a pretty diverse group of guys to answer this question.
So pretty diverse incomes.
Yes, and pretty somewhat diverse answers. They were interested. I was surprised by some of them.
Yeah.
So the first question is, how? Let's back up. How do you define provider? So quick, how do you define provider?
Why would you go with me first? I struggle with how I define provider, to be honest.
Okay.
Finances are important to me. Financial management is most important to me. I am very certain about that. It is not necessarily about how much you make. For me, it's how you manage your money. However, I do know that because there are things that I want to do and there are goals that I want to have, it is going to take a man that makes a certain income and be financially savvy to do those things, right?
Okay.
So as far as providing for me, what's important for me is someone to come in and make me feel like I could take off my cape. Okay. Whatever that feels like. For me, that is provision. I don't necessarily need you to provide for me financially, but I definitely want you to do that. I want you to take some things off of me. Provision, though, is not solely for me defined about money. I have a young son, and his father is in his life, and they're thorough, and they have a great relationship, but his father's not in my house.
Okay.
Right? So when I think about my son and think about provision, is someone who's going to love my son is the way they love me and be active in his life, right? Not just be there, but to also be active. My son is a sports dynamic, right? So yeah, throw a football with him. To me, that also looks like provision. Make me feel secure, to make me feel protected. I definitely don't want a hothead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People roll, like you said, the Tupacs over here, and I got to be nervous when we go out. But I definitely want to walk beside you and feel like I can't be touched. Yeah. Whether or not that's true, I want to feel that. Yeah, I want to feel that. Okay. So I think provision is in all of those things. Like, like you said, just lighting up my load somehow without me having to beg for it, without me having to, cry for it. Like, just because you love me, you desire to do those things, right?
Got you. Okay. So I look at provision similarly. Although I don't have children, I feel like some of the things that, and I usually am not the person to be like my daddy, but I feel like some of the things that he showed me in terms of how he just went about things, some of it was financial. My dad was an entrepreneur. He got up, he had a vision. He wasn't a typical 9-to-5er. And so I don't necessarily expect that, but I do expect you to be able to, take care of your bills, your things that you have going on. But what I look for in provision is partnership. Mm-hmm. And I know this doesn't sound romantic to the romantics out there, but as a single Black female, I can tell you, I could do more with another, what you say? 45,000,
right.
45,000 plus
than
I can with just me. I mean, it's simple math. Yeah. So part of provision, and what I look for is someone who can add to what I already bring to the table. And I don't just mean that financially, but I just mean in life in general. So that might even be certain experiences. I mean, I think there's certain things you're just naturally better at.
Right.
A friend of mine joked that I'm an executor. And so sometimes I have the idea, but if you give me an idea, I'm going to make it happen.
Right.
And so I think, to me, that's a part of provision. If you have a vision, like, I have no problem being like, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to tack this to tack and tie this. And I think a bit of it, though, is emotional, too. I think as women, especially as Black women, we're always expected to present ourselves in certain ways. And I think safety is not just from a burglar. Safety is I can be naked emotionally with you. I can, have the off day. I can be down. I can be in my feelings, and all of that is okay.
I love that.
So I feel like, when I look at provision, some of it is, okay, we can come together and do some things, come together and do some projects that require funds, but also it is those other things, those intangibles that just add to your life and make life a little easier, because life is gonna life.
Life is lifing.
So we asked some of these men folk. Let's see what some of them said. Okay. So for the most part, they all said, I didn't have anything that I highlighted that was just like off the wall with what is a provider.
Okay.
So I'll highlight our 63-year-old said, someone who looks after the economic stability within the relationship, safety for members of the family, and the development and growth of each individual in the family. So they put a lot on that. A lot of men said, like stable home, security. One man said enhancing a lifestyle through contributions. It doesn't have to be financial. Most of them said that it doesn't have to be financial. They said it's important, but not more important than giving what is needed. So that is very individualistic, right? So what does your home need? What would add to us? Most of them kind of covered that, but they did definitely highlight like stable home or financial, and that security thing. So okay.
And it was interesting. I had a guy, and it was probably out of the people that I surveyed, he probably made the most money. I'm not going to say he made the most money. I'm going to say he had the biggest net worth, right? Because salary-wise, he definitely didn't make the most money of the guys that I surveyed, but, amassed his wealth through real estate.
Yeah.
So, and it was interesting, like he had a one-word answer, and it said money. And I was like,
okay,
interesting. That's right. Like,
there you go.
Okay. So, but the other people that I interviewed kind of were, more like you. They, said it wasn't just about money, but one specifically said, when I go to work, I think about how can I provide for my family and the kids? Does she have the things that she needs? And does the child be able to get the things that if she has kids, what can I do for her children? Or am I able to help out with duties, help out with her car? Yeah. So being able to do those things. And they also said that some women do just define it as not necessarily the help or emotional aspect of it, but they just define it as money. He said, and that is really disheartening to a man.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really
because I think it's kind of for them minimizing. I think as women, when we're reduced to our bodies or things like that, we can see it, but maybe
or just being a mom.
Yeah, we don't really look at that from that viewpoint. Like, okay, I'm just a chick,
right?
So
for sure.
Okay, so next question, quick.
So the next question that we had, and all my guys said the same thing, which I thought maybe this is more common than not. I asked them, have they dated a woman that made more than them? And all of mine said yes. Yours as well?
All of mine did as well. And it was a one-word answer. It was either yes or yes I have. And it was it. Like,
don't
I asked the question, it was like, so then, of course, we have to ask a follow-up. And it was like, I really spelled it out. I said, did you given that, did it make you question your ability to be able to provide? Did it change how you viewed yourself? And then also, did you still feel like you were respected and valued even though she out-earned you? So our youngest, 29, said it did from the standpoint that she was more established. So they struggled to figure out where they fit in. And because she wanted certain things, and they mentioned, for example, she wanted a home that was $350,000, and they work in public service. So they were like, I don't know how I can help you, or what I can, like, they felt like they're not good enough, basically, because you wanted these plush homes, and I can't, you know what I mean? That's just basic math, right? Most of them said they didn't have any. I didn't have anyone that had an issue with her out earning them. The issue came in the situation where they didn't feel respected. And so one person, now this guy was funny. So he said he's been on both sides of the fence. So his wife has made more, and he wasn't fazed because he was moving forward and finding his own way to success. So it actually motivated him in those situations to like go after. And so then he now like out earns her, but he said, you know, I made sure to let her know emotionally and monetarily he appreciated her, and even how she handled him before he like elevated in terms of his financial impact or his financial contribution. And so he said, like, impact wise, he was like, you know, having a woman make more than you can impact you. If you're grinding, it motivates you, as the case with him. If you're lazy, you'll resent her, which was interesting to me that for him to say, like, you'll resent her if you don't have plans or you're lazy. And then he was like, if you're, you know, a leech, then you'll be cool with it. Now, he did say her level of respect never wavered, but he said things intimacy wise improved. Well, some things improved. When he out earned her. So, I mean,
fair enough.
Do with that what you will.
Right.
Another guy just said that there were times where a woman would have an expectation that required money that he couldn't afford to part with. And so she felt like she didn't really consider like there's a chasm between their salaries and how that affects everyday things. And so another guy I thought was really sweet. So he was in school when he got with his wife. And so he said that she always respected him, but he really made it a point to make sure that he didn't like take advantage or, you know, stay within means. They had a budget, and he, you know, really respected that. And now he's in a position where he out earns her. And he's like, you know, none of that has ever changed as far as their respect between each other and how he felt valued. But he said, you know, she was literally with me shooting in the gym because I had students out, you know, I didn't make any money. And so, you know, it was really interesting to hear that from his perspective too.
Yeah. And then my end, it was kind of very similar. The one that, well, like I said, they all had dated someone that was out of their that had out-earned them. In one relationship, he did say it was a complete lack of respect. She didn't respect him right. She always was throwing how much more she made in his face, and, you know, what he couldn't do for her and all of these things. He said, so in that relationship, he said he didn't mind that she earned more, but he could tell that she did. Like, it mattered to her that he made less than her. So there was just no respect in the relationship. In the other two situations, they said that there wasn't an issue with respect, and it was kind of like what your guy said, like it was a motivator for them. One, he was married to her. She out-earned him. She ended up getting her MBA. And he said it drove him to want to better himself, get him a higher education. And now, again, ended up out-earning her. And he said at the beginning of the relationship, he was an entrepreneur. So he knew eventually his business was going to catch up to her. But, you know, so he was like, there was no issue for him of like any kind of self-confidence or anything like that. And then for the other guy, he said he didn't really have an issue, or there wasn't an issue between them because, again, net worth, he had a great net worth, but salary wise, she out earned him salary wise, right? So he said for him, when he went around her friends, because of the type of job that he had, you know, it wasn't lawyer, doctor. She was a doctor. It wasn't lawyer, doctor, this. So her friends felt like he was leeching because his job was a transporter, right? And it didn't have this elaborate, but he still made six figures,
right? That's right.
And he said he felt he always had this need to explain himself because his job didn't have this manager title or, this elaborate title. And So he said for him, it motivated him to want to do more, but it also, he did have some kind of, self-doubt issues when he was around her company and who she hung with.
Yeah, I can see that. So would you have an issue if you out-earned your partner?
I've out-earned several partners. Oh. Like, no, it's not the same. Because let's see, this is, I knew
this. That's the way you said it.
These moments were coming.
That's the way you said it.
I have. So I've been out, but okay. So I have out-earned partners, again, salary-wise, but I've also had people that out-earned me salary-wise, but I still had more than them because they didn't have financial management.
Got you.
So, I mean, I dated a guy, he made like $12,000 in a month, and every month he was broke. Like, every month. And I just was, it blew my mind. Like, wow, But, so it was more so financial management. I will say that in one of my relationships where I earned the partner, it was really big issues, not necessarily because I had an issue that I out-earned him, but it just felt like always this competition, right? Like it just felt very competitive, or I don't know, it's security issues, and I wasn't built to deal with it. Like, it was like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is what it is, And then because I think your guys kind of mentioned it, like there were things that I wanted to do that I'm used to doing that I stopped doing because I knew he couldn't afford to do them, and that kind of also did leave some resentment for me. So I don't necessarily know. I'm not so big on the salary deficit that if I'm not going to say I will never date a guy that I out-earn. But if there's no financial management, if he doesn't have some kind of investment portfolio, or if I can't travel with you, and this is an issue, I love to travel, so I'm not gonna downplay me traveling. I only have to travel with you because me and him can't afford to travel. I'm sorry. I'm 40s. I can't do that.
Right. Let's take this vacation.
Yeah, and I can't have a vacation unless it's the Charleston. So I love Charleston, but Charleston is not the rest of my life.
I love it. This might be the sound bite.
Please don't.
Several.
No.
So sound like I have out-earned partners. I think for me, it only becomes weird when they make it weird. And when I say by weird, like just constantly bringing it up, like, oh, you, and it's like, because I don't think of it that way. I think when I'm in a partnership, and this may sound super corny, I don't know, but like in a serious one, not like, oh, we just kicking it. Right. But like if we are together, I start looking at it as a person who, does still consider marriage like almost like practice for that. So I kind of feel like, well, if I got it, then we got it. Now, within reason, it's not about to be, I'm paying your light bill. I'm not going to do that. But, so I think, for me, it's not an issue. It only becomes an issue when you make it one, or when I feel like I'm being kind of like taken advantage of. I think that's it for me. And then to your point, that taking advantage of is usually because that person's not responsible with what they have. Yeah. Whatever that looks like.
Or they're like, that person said lazy. Because I've, at least in the guys that I've interviewed, all of them have said, I don't want your stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. Yeah. I don't want your stuff. So, the whole taking advantage of thing, people do that, but I think it does lead more so to laziness factor. So yeah.
So last question. I don't know if so much applies to us, but the other question we asked was, how do you feel when a woman expects you to provide? So the interesting answers I got, some were said, I look at what her dad did. I feel like you can't set a baseline for me that you didn't at least have growing up.
Ooh, I love that answer.
Some would ask what she some would ask what she would provide as well. Another interesting one that said, if she expects that financially, then I'm in control of the money. Because if the answer is just financial, if you expect me to provide. Now, if it's more than financial, it's reciprocal. Like if you expect provision in terms of like, oh, you bring something financially to the table, you're emotionally this, then it's like, okay, I can reciprocate that. One guy said, I'll just holler. He said, I would leave her to the streets if we're not married. Like I got a lot of guys really made that distinction. If we're like married, engaged, sure, I understand it. It's fine. If we're not at that point, then no. Yeah. Like even the 63-year-old, which is kind of old school age-wise, was like, that is not negotiable. I am not providing for someone that I'm dating. Now, if we're at the point of engagement, we're building a life together, then that's something else. I think one guy said within reason, you have to contribute. Like, what are you bringing to the table in terms of your contribution? But it's not, money isn't the end all be all there. And so he did say, like, a woman should have some expectation in terms of stability, protection, a vision, and things that we've talked about. But if it's just, it seems to be like you have the wrong, to them, you have the wrong mindset if it's just money. And that's going to be an issue. So
yeah, and mine's was similar. One guy, he straight out said, like you said, like she should be able to expect that. He didn't make the distinction between dating and being in a relationship, but the other two did. And the one said that if I'm in a relationship and she has to come to me and say she expects me to provide, then she's probably not the person for me. And I had him elaborate because eventually I was like, oh, she can't tell you her expectations. But he was saying that, no, like if I'm into you, I'm going to be doing everything to provide for you anyway. Yeah. So if you are feeling that way, like I'm not providing for you or I'm not doing for you, then it's probably because I don't necessarily want to do it. Yeah. So, and then the other guy, he was saying, again, he made the distinction between relationship and out of relationship. He said out of relationship, that's a red flag for him. Like, and he listened to Kevin Samuels and he was, I was like, right. He was like, yeah, I'm going to leave her. He didn't say to the streets, but that's basically what he said. He was like, yeah, that's a red flag. And he said in a relationship, he felt like his, he didn't say wife, but he just say in a relationship, he was like, he felt like his partner could come to him and be like, hey, things are tight or whatever, can you take care of things? Even to the point where he said, you could, if you needed to quit your job, he's like, I could hold you down. I could hold out all the bills and stuff. He said, but what is going to be your contribution? It can't be like, I need to take care of the bills and your hair and your nails and your spa treatment.
Girl, that house better be spotless.
Right. He was like, I can't do all of those things. He said, for him, that would be a problem. That's the expectation of provision.
And I'm going to admit, I've never felt comfortable asking a man, like even in situations I can think of in the past being in a bind, like I've never felt comfortable. I don't know if that's the being too independent or what. I've just never, I guess I've never wanted to come off that way. And then something stuck out about what you said in terms of just the, you talking about the guy and like her being the one and like if like I'll be doing it. I think that's really interesting because guys kind of know, right? And so it just really kind of gave me a little moment of like, child, I have never felt comfortable like so maybe, child. Anyway.
Yeah, some out here that are.
Ladies. Out here getting flued out. I need to figure it out.
Right. Like taking me on a trip. I've never felt, but hey, whatever. Maybe that's what God let us be able to provide for ourselves. He said they ain't gonna ask for nothing.
They not.
But so ladies, the divas, specifically divos, chime in. Let us know if we pretty much got it right and nailed it. And we did try to get, like we said, the male perspective on this. Divas, listen. Don't be in there justifying and tearing the answers apart.
Listen to understand, not to respond.
Right,
just
that part.
Take it in.
Yeah, take it in. Just receive it and do what you want with the information. But this did come from men to tell what men felt as providers. So with that, we say, again, if you are on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe. We appreciate you tuning in to hear another episode of Divas and Ducats. If you are following, or if you are on Instagram and Facebook, please go follow us. On Facebook, we are Divas and Ducats under the same name. And do you have anything else?
You can also, if you have a question, comment, concern, shenanigan, email us divaadvice@gmail.com, divaadvice@gmail.com.
Yep. So in the meantime, in between time, have a great attitude.
All right, bye.
Bye.